Good evening, Facebook. How's everybody doing tonight? I heard somebody say, "Come on, get in, come in, come in, come in." I don't understand that, but I hope everybody is having a wonderful Thursday evening. Welcome to another live episode of Just Troia. I'm sure, excuse me, Good Grief with Just Troia. And I am Just Troia. Who am I? I am a certified life coach. I'm a certified grief counseling specialist. I am a whole lot of things, but the thing that we focus on, that we try to focus on, is the grieving process. Tonight, I have an amazing guest. He is finishing up Bible study, so he'll be here shortly. Um, but that'll give him time. That gives everybody time to get in. I hope everybody's having a wonderful. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Thursday evening. Let me do this. Let me share. Let me share. Let me see if it'll let me share. I'm gonna get this together in a moment. Share public. Now, okay. So I hope everybody's having a good evening. And like I said, we're just waiting on my guest to get in. But while we're doing that, let me go ahead and the do our intro, and I'll be right back. And we are back. Hey, Crystal. Hey, Sid. How are you all doing? Listen, again, everybody, welcome to the reboot of Good Grief with Just Troya. And last week was an amazing conversation. We talked about grief and singleness. Today, we will be talking to, like I said, he's with Pastor Carlos Marshall out of Lawrenceville, Georgia, Voices of Faith East pastor. He is my former pastor, but he has an amazing book. And we're going to talk about some things from the male perspective. Um, the name of his book is God's Mighty Men. So I'm really excited to talk to him about his new book that is being released. I bought my 2 copies of it. He said it's at the printer right now, but there is some exciting news that happened today. Um, that I want to share with everyone. A little while ago, I guess over the summer, we put out that they were changing the name of one of our high school, one of our a couple of schools. One of them being the middle school that I went to, Edward Hand Middle School, and another was Buchanan Elementary School here in Lancaster. And at the time, I was endorsing one person, and then the list grew, and I was like, wow, I know all the people, but I still endorsed. I still didn't want to. I still endorsed the first person, and so excuse me. So we have some exciting news to share with you guys, and that is they have chosen the 2 names for the Buchanan Elementary School and Edward Hand Middle School, where I went. And let me show you who the winners are. Boom. Ah! Buchanan Elementary School will now be named after Dr. Rita Smith Wade L. It would be the Dr. Rita Smith Wade L. Elementary School. And Edward Hand Middle School will now be Hazel Jackson Middle School. I am so excited about that for so many different reasons. So for so many different levels that these 2 women have been chosen. One, as it pertains to the work that I do, people often hear me talk about my mentor. My mentor who passed away, who helped propel me into this work that I'm in right now. I tell the story all the time that my mentor passed away in 2018, at the end of 2018, and then in 2019 my grandma passed, and then my best friend passed. So that's what sent me. If you did not know that story, that's what sent me into this world of working with people who are grieving. So why I'm so excited. I try not to get emotional today when I saw it come over on my phone. Um, the mentor that I talk about is, I don't know if you can see it on my screen, but is this lady right there in the back with the white bandana on her head. That is Dr. Rita Smith Wade L. She was an amazing person. She pushed every black student that came before her. She pushed us beyond our limitation, our limits in what we expected of ourselves. She made us. She expected more from us, and she pushed us. She pushed us even the more. So to have, when I saw her name come up as one of the names for that, for Buchanan Elementary to be renamed, and I saw her name, I was just like, wow, was such an amazing honor. Who she is? She became a professor. She was a professor at Milledgeville University, and she's just an amazing woman. So this is the face, and the one in the back. She is the face of one of the people who has pushed me since I was 13, 14 years old. So that is Dr. Rita Smith Wade L. from Milledgeville University. And you spoke me, and you've also you heard me talk about this other shero that's in front, Miss Hazel Jackson. She was our neighbor when my parents moved to the house that they're in now. Miss Jackson was there, and Miss Jackson and Miss Jackson, her daughter and her granddaughter were on back in the summer talking about Miss Jackson. And when I heard it, I was like, absolutely. But then there was another one, Buddy Glover, Principal Buddy Glover. He was another one. So either way, whether it been named after Miss Jackson or named after Mr. Buddy, it would have been all right. But they chose Miss Jackson. And the importance of Miss Jackson is the fact that Miss Jackson moved here from South Carolina, and she tried to teach for get into the school district of Lancaster for it took her 9 years. 9 years. She would apply, and then they found out she was a person of color, and then they would remove, they were like, no, we don't have any openings. And finally they needed a teacher, and she was instrumental in a lot of service, a lot of different programs being implemented, and then she went on to be a professor at Milledgeville University. So, yay! I'm so excited about these new names, especially Albert Hand Middle School, because that's where I went to, and I'm just so excited about that change. Yay! So I'm so excited. I'm so very excited. I can't wait for the name opening of it. So thank you to the Lancaster community for staying the course, for all those who made a suggestion. We're the and Vincent, Derek, over there pushing and pushing and pushing to make sure that Miss Jackson's name was put forward. But again, and it goes to everybody that was nominated. Everyone that was nominated was beyond worthy of the name being changed. So like I said, I would have been cool with either any of them, but I lashed myself to Miss Jackson at the beginning because the other names weren't being shopped around, just weren't being nominated. But now I'm glad that we will have a person of color um, for our middle school here. But with that said, I don't. I guess my guest is a little bit late, which is fine. So let me take this off the screen and let's just chat. How's everybody doing out there today? Um, as we're coming out of the pandemic and the whole and all of that is going on in our world. Um, let's share some things about grief. Why don't we do that? Um, because everyone's lost a lot this year. And how did I? Well, maybe I do this. Maybe I tell everybody who I am and why I do what I do. I don't think I've shared this with anybody new um, recently, especially since we're just coming back. Why do I do what I do? Um, I do what I do because, like I said, I shared back in 2019 that I lost several significant people in my world, and I didn't know. And again, being a minister, there's a lot of things that you are. I'm a minister. I'm a preacher's kid. I'm a grandmom. I am a master's student again, because I have nothing better to do. I am a business owner. I'm a ministry, I'm a ministry leader. So why, Troya, are you working in the field of grief? It's so grim. It's so hard. It can be very deep and dark. And why am I here? It's outside the fact that God called me to this. But again, back in 2019, with those significant losses and needing somewhere to talk and get it out, um, I couldn't find that. I didn't have that. I searched, I searched all over, still couldn't find nobody that was specifically catering to the grief journey. So that's how I got here. I got here because um, no one was doing it. So it led me to, and I haven't talked about this in a while, it led me to write this, my book, Soul Ties Letters of Love. And what that is, it really is. Letters of love is just that letters that I wrote to people who I love. My grandma, my mentor, childhood friends, a good girlfriend of mine whose daughter will be on in a few weeks. I have to nail that time down, so she can fill in the gaps for when I talked about her. And it was my way of clawing back, right? Because grief has a way, I'd say it all the time, of being like wet cement, and it has a way of pulling you in. And if you're not careful, the cement will harden around you, and not just your feet, but it'll begin to harden your heart. And thankfully, I went to therapy, and I talked to someone. But I realized, when I stepped back and I looked, and I was like, we're not doing this in our community. We're not, whether it be Christian or Black and Brown community, we're not doing it. And anyone who knows me, knows that I don't do anything. Everything I do, I believe that we experience things to not just for ourselves, but to be a blessing, or to minister to somebody else who's going through. So that is how I got into this world, because I felt so alone and so out there, and I was angry with God. How many people can say that, right? And not wait for the sun, the moon, and every lightning bolt to hit because you say you were mad with God. But what I realized in my process is that God can handle it. He can handle everything that I give to him. He can handle every hurt, every pain, every sorrow, every drama, every yell. He can handle it all. His shoulders are much bigger than mine. So telling him, and laying my soul bare, and say, God, this one was just really jacked up. You could have did a whole. There's a whole lot of other people. And listen, if I'm honest, and if I tell the whole truth, and people, y'all know me. People know me. Y'all know me. I believe in telling the truth. God, there's a whole lot of other people that you could have taken besides some of the folk that you took. Um, uh, but um, you chose to take the people that you did, and they were okay with leaving, and I have to be okay with it. But right now, I'm angry. Right now, I'm pissed off because I no longer have what to me was my normal, right? I don't have a best friend. I don't have somebody that um, I can talk to and just say anything to, and it won't look crazy. They won't look at me crazy. They won't look at, oh, you're an elder. They don't look at you're Pastor Butcher's kid. What they look at is just me being Troia. So I was angry. I was angry, and I'm with you, Crystal. I was mad there. But what I realized was, even in my anger, we still have a purpose. Even in my hurt and my pain, I still had, God still had a purpose for it all. God, I hate that cliche, but but it's the truth. God knew better. God knew that it would take for me anyway. It would take um, something as dramatic as losing three people within a 6 month period that were very significant to me to push me beyond beyond my standard, beyond you know just the average, and push me into a field that I guess I was called and destined for. Everybody knows I told a story about the origins of my name, and the fact is, when you're walking with somebody through grief, it is a journey. It is one that is not for the faint at heart, and it's not, and it's because everybody wants everybody to just be over it, right? Be over it in 5 minutes. I had 25 years with my best friend. I had 50 years with my grandma. I had 30 plus with my mentor and others. Um, Rome was not built in a day, and neither was our relationship. We had a lot of ups and downs, and um, we have to stop, and if we have to normalize, and that is my goal. That is my true goal, is to normalize grief, especially in our community. In our community, we misdiagnose. We If we can just let people grieve, a lot of the stuff that we've been, and then there's this. Okay, so I'm getting deeper than what I need to that I was trying to get that I was trying to be deeper. I was trying to be deeper, but we have to talk about this thing called grief. And I don't, maybe it's the reason why Pastor Marshall's not on just yet. Um, we have for so long in the black and brown community, what's called compounded grief. We have generational grief because we have experienced so much loss. And everybody said, well, just stop talking about being in slavery and all these other different things. But think about it. If we go back generationally, and I'm just speaking from the African American community, but then there's also from the Christian perspective, for those who are Christians, again, we also experience a sense of loss because we're longing to be with Christ. Our home is in heaven. So there's that loss that's associated with that. That's a whole nother conversation that we'll have with this very lovely man. Hopefully I can convince him to come on to my live and expound on that, because when he said that, it was amazing to me. But we have, from generationally, we have had loss, and it was not identified, and unfortunately our losses, we're just supposed to keep moving, right? We're just supposed to keep getting up. Life happens, and all those things are true, but we never process. And then after we have that one loss, and then there's something else that happens, and then something else that happens, and then something else is on there, and we never fully embrace or fully uh, feel the loss of whatever it was. It can be the loss of a boyfriend or a girlfriend, but we keep moving and we don't stop, because a bullet can't hit a moving target. Yeah, but at some point you're going to stop and you're going to hit a wall. And when that happens in our community, when a person hits the wall, a couple of things we do. And they begin to act, their behavior starts to change, and they could be very erratic emotions. They can be just all over the place. And instead of identifying what they are, what's going on with them, we label them as special. They're just a little touched, when the reality is they're dealing with an unresolved loss. And I'm not saying that they need you need to stay in a perpetual state of grieving, but as I learned a couple of weeks ago in this grief summit that I was in, um, grief never goes away. Did I say it? Did Was I supposed to say? I think somebody wanted me to say something different. Grief never goes away, and here's the thing: we learn to live with it. And the reason I said the reason that, and when he said that, I was like, wow, that's deep. And when we say that grief never goes away, what we're saying is you're always going to miss that person that you've lost. If it's particularly if it's a physical loss, you're always going to miss that person. You're always going to long to be that person, to be there. There's it will get better with time. Um, your it will get better, but you're always just always, and there's going to be what's called a grief trigger. We all have a trigger. People talk about trigger, and there's certain things you need to not do that triggers me. There's unintentional triggers when it comes to grief. It can be a song that you can be being fine for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month after losing the person, but something will trigger you. It can be something very small, and you find yourself boo-hooing like the person had just passed away in that moment, because something in that moment took you back to when that person was still alive. Um, and just in case somebody's like, sure, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, you don't have to say, come on, Peter, let me get a witness. You know how they do in the church, but and I'm joking, but I was driving down the street. Oh, it was this summer. It had to be this summer, and I wasn't thinking about anything in particular. I was going to pick up my sister, and I was at the stoplight, and this truck came up next to me, an 18-wheeler, and I looked over at that truck and I began to cry. Why? Because it was my bestie. He was a truck driver, and it wasn't anything special about the truck. It was just I just looked at the truck in that moment. I bursted out in tears. I bursted out in tears, and you would think that I just got the phone call that he had passed away in that moment. Um, so the grief doesn't go away. How we handle the grief is what allows us to move forward, and which allows us to live through the loss, and that is our goal. That is the goal. When I work with people and we talk about the because we do grief support sessions, and our goal is, one, to talk about something that we don't talk about, and give people a safe space, which is why we do this forum, because this is a safe space as much as it can be online. Um, but we want to make sure that people understand that they have a safe space when we're working with them, that they can say whatever they want to say, and it is a, and most importantly, it's a judgment-free zone, and you have permission to feel whatever, or not feel whatever and whenever you're ready, because again, a phrase that I'm borrowing, and Pastor Marshall is here. A phrase that I am borrowing is grief is as unique as a thumbprint, as your fingerprint. So, hey, Pastor Marshall, I'm bringing him on in just a second. So, with that said, we'll talk more about this, or if you have any questions, and we will, as we continue to move forward, we'll talk about different things and have different subjects as well. So, with that said, all is not lost. You can live through it. And what does that look like? I am the other side of grief. I say that all the time. But I've talked enough. I am going to bring, without further ado, my friend, my buddy, my pal over there, the esteemed pastor of Voices of Faith East in Lawrenceville, Georgia, the Pastor Carlos, Marshall.
That's why I love Georgia Boogie. That's Troya. And yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. How are you?
I am well, sir. How are you?
I am well also. God is so faithful, just so thankful tonight. So, and it's a privilege, so it's an honor to be here. So thank you for having me.
No, thank you for saying yes. And we were just chatting it up with the folks till you got here. We were just talking about the grief journey and how
Mm,
our community does not do it well.
mm, mm.
Our churches don't do it well. Our
It's
people
real.
just don't how we don't do it well, and that grief is something that never goes away, and we need to just realize that and understand that it's always going to be here because of the nature of relationships and the
Mhm.
nature of the loss. So and but
I
our
love what you
goal
said. That,
is
that, 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 that grief shows that you had a relationship. If you don't grieve, it lacks relationship because you grieve over something that you were close to, you had, you understand that, but something was broken, something was
mhm.
torn. So that's what caused the grief is because it meant something and it's not there anymore.
Wow, that's good. And because and everybody talks about that little scripture, and everybody's like, "Well, I'm not supposed to. I don't. I'm supposed to just keep moving, and I'm not supposed to cry." And and Jesus cried. Jesus wept.
You
The
did?
shortest scripture in the Bible, Jesus wept. And
You
why
did.
did he weep? He wept over the relationship
Yes.
that was broken at that moment between. Because I mean, he knew that Lazarus was asleep, but he still Lazarus still died. Lazarus still technically, I mean, in all intensive purposes, Lazarus died a physical death. It was
You
just
did.
that Christ had to come and do and be Christ and raise him
Right.
from the dead.
And that's the
So
human part of it. We have to understand
right,
Jesus was all man and all God at the same time. So he showed his human side by crying and showed the God side by raising him from the dead. But
right.
the fact that the God that Jesus knew he was going to raise, that still didn't keep him from crying, from weeping because of the loss. It was torn. So yeah, that's good.
Because if you think about it, when you just said that, if the only human side of Jesus thought he's like, oh my God, my friend is gone, I'm never going to see my friend again. But thankfully, he was all God, all human, all God, and he knew the power that worked within him, even if the people around him didn't know. He
Right.
knew he knew who he was.
Hmm. Hmm. That's
That
wonderful.
that's yours. You can have that one.
Yeah.
That's somebody need to preach that,
Come on now.
because that's a good one. God, Jesus knew. And I think if we know who this God is that we served, we'll be able to keep moving
Amen.
and keep and learning to live again through all of this. And again, he doesn't. And somebody mentioned I mentioned that in my grief journey, my initial emotions was anger. It wasn't anything else. It was anger.
Mm, mm,
And I said I was angry at God. I was angry
mhm.
at my friend. I was just angry. And but God understood my anger. He said it's okay to be angry, but sin not.
Come on.
So
Hmm.
Troy,
Hmm.
okay, Troy, you're mad. What are you gonna do with that? What are you gonna do with this anger towards me?
Yes.
That's fine.
I love that because what Job, look at what Job did. And all that he did, he said he did not charge it to God. And end of it, all those things, it was one after the other. He heard about the land, heard about his servant, heard about his children. Before he can get through with one of them, they was telling about another one. But at the end of that, it says, in all this, he did not charge this against God as sin. So and he did not sin by doing that. So you have to do that. So you have to look at that. That's huge. So wow,
Right.
great
Yeah.
example for us.
It was. So I mean, so again, when we talk about the word, we can always find our God allowed us to find every situation that we're going through in His Word.
Amen.
If we pick up the book. Look, because who was it? Somebody I was talking to a few weeks ago, and I had to go back and look at it. They said even talking about unicorns is in the Bible. I was like, what? I said, unicorns is not in the Bible. Unicorns is in the Bible. There's a reference to
Mm,
unicorns in the Bible. I was like, what? What? Yeah,
mm.
it really is. I think it's in Numbers or Leviticus, one of them, but it discusses unicorns as
Wow.
this amazing beast. I was like, this is okay. Well, all
Oh yeah,
right.
that's real.
I was like, huh, that's interesting.
Always good.
But only God. But listen, for those again, I am so excited. I'm waiting for my copy of my book,
Yes.
God's Mighty Men. So I'm gonna let you tell us about that because last week we talked about. I think I shared it with you. Last week we talked about grief and singleness,
Hmm.
and it was really from it was supposed to be a male and female perspective, but it ended up just being because the male part he had to work. He
Okay.
got called into work, so he couldn't come on. But so that's all right. I have the esteemed pastor
I love it. I love it.
from Lawrenceville, Georgia, coming on talking about his amazing book. Tell us, for those
Mhm.
folks who don't know, I mean, I brag on you all the time, but let everybody know who Pastor Carlos Marshall is and how you came to uh, write this amazing book, God's Mighty Men.
Okay. Well, first, man, it's just a blessing to be able to do it. And it's God's Mighty Men, the Christian man's guide to love, leadership, and life. It started off as my journal. Honestly, it was just a journal for me. And I would hear, well, men are not this, men are not doing this. So many different things, about 5 or 6 things. I said, well, not all men are what society say they are. So the initial thing was, I said, well, God, there are so many things to do, tell women what to do when their husband's not doing this, their boyfriends are not doing this. But it's nothing to do when the man is doing this and they're not getting the support. God says, well, if it's nothing out there, will you write it? I was like, well, okay, God. Well, you said you provide that for me. So that was really what it started from, just really from my journal. And the way, and you'll see this in the book, when I journal, I get it. When I write it down in my journal, I get it out of my head. When I talk to God about it, I get it out of my heart. So now it's
Mm,
gone. It doesn't bother me anymore because God has it out of my heart, because out of the heart flows the issues of life. So my heart is not allowing things to come out as I talk to people, the hurt and all that stuff. It's out of my heart. Get it out of my head so I won't think about it. It's not consuming me. So that's what it led me to do it. And what I want is to help support men not to give up on love, not to give up on leadership, and not to give up on life. Even
mm,
in singleness, even as I went through a divorce, and you see this in the thing, separation in 2014, divorce in 2016, God tells me I still must love. God said I'm still a leader. God said I still have to show people life. So it was even more prevalent than in singleness as it was in marriage, because God said that's who you are. So I want to show men that are trying to get there, that want to be married, you have a certain responsibility to lead your family in love. Don't wait for your wife to lead in love. She's going to participate in love. You should lead in love. You should lead in leadership. Now that may sound fun, lead in leadership. Well, sometimes you can allow someone else to lead in leadership. They start off, then you take over. No, you have to lead in leadership. Start off, then lead in life. And that's the
mm,
thing. It's not about just beating your chest, say I'm the man. It's actually doing it. And what I love for the women, at the end of each chapter, I have something called Note for the Ladies. Even though this is designed for men, you have to have a target market. I don't want to take the emphasis off men, but I want the women to know they are going on this journey with us. We can't
mm.
be mighty men by ourselves. We're the mighty men. But if your husband is already a mighty man, the wife can help him continue to be that. If he's not that, you want to help pull him into that by this book. So that's the whole gist of it. If you're already there, stay there. If you're not there, I want to help you get there. So that's the excitement about the book, and that's what God gave me. I want to see this, Elder Troia, as something that you use for your men's group. I want to see people get this, and they have a study on this. I foresee this being a conference, being sitting there. I'm being interviewed now, but what I want to do is interview men to give their point of view. This is my story. Everyone has a story. This is just mine. I want to hear what they have to say about their specific story. This is a conversation starter. It opens the door for them to start talking.
So with that, now speaking of that, why do you think? Why do you? I mean, because you're right. There's a ton of self-help books. T.D. Jakes made millions of dollars getting women loosed.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Well, what about the brother? The woman loose when the guy still tied up. Wait a minute, hold up. Right. She's gonna be back. She's not gonna be loose.
Right. And so I'm like, so why would I mean? And I know he had a men's conference at some point, but why is it? What is it? What is it? What is it that hinders brothers or men, and not just African American men, but I mean men, and we're talking men as a gender. What is it that keeps you all? Because we know that you all experience hurt. You know that you experience loss. You experience ups and downs. What is this whole karate men bleed on the inside concept? And
it can be pride, following what you never know. A lot of it is never been said done any other way. You saw your dad do it, your grandfather do it, everybody on the block talk about it, and no one want to step up and be the first and only to do it. Because not only does society, when I say society, usually in something, when I say society does it, well, the people that's involved in it don't do it themselves, but men do it just as much as everyone else. They make other men feel like they should. So when you feel singled out, so they don't have a forum, they don't have that safe place to be able to cry, to be able to show their weak side. And I talk about meekness a lot. Meekness is strength under control. It takes a strong person to be weak when they're expected to be, when they're expected to be strong and they're weak. It takes a strong person. When you expect to be weak, it's okay to be weak. Okay, yes, that's good. It don't take as much, but it takes a stronger person to be weak when they're expected to be strong.
That's good.
Yeah, so that's what it is. So the men, some of it's the macho thing. Others, they've never been shown this. They kind of like following tradition. They've always been done. So I'm gonna do it this way. I don't want to be the weak link. I don't want to drop the ball on it. But people have to understand that just because I don't see these people dealing with it, don't mean that they're not. Not another man on my watch will explode, commit murder, suicide, do these things that causes you, because they're going to do something. Men are doing something. They're not just dealing with it. Something is happening. I want to give us the right way to deal with it, the biblical way to deal with it, because it's having an effect on you. You're doing something, we're just not doing the right thing.
Right. Somebody just said, people make men think men should not cry. It makes them weak, and most men never see a grown man cry, so they don't cry.
Yes, on point. And I'm telling you, what you said is so key. Sometimes people think men do. I've even been told, and I've even heard it said, well, just deal with it. Wow. And when somebody says deal with it, the person that said, they don't really understand. You really don't know what you said, because now when the person deals with it, they might not deal with it in the way that you like. And the whole point is, sometimes people, when they do it, if they get shot down, if they get made fun of or, ridiculed, then that turns them into what society says. They might not naturally have been that way, but now they're going to turn the opposite. They're going to go to the extreme, the other way, just to keep from even being categorized as being weak or even looking weak. So they go to the extreme the other way.
And I don't get that. So, and that's the other thing, because I mean, you touched on it, because we were there. we saw the you and first, like, whatever happened with your divorce. Um, how important is it from a male perspective to get your life together before you attempt to because the one thing I know about you, I knew you wanted to be. I knew you're the marrying type. You wanted to be in. You love being. You you loved marriage.
Yes.
Um, but how important was it for you to process and allow yourself to be healed before you decided to go start looking again?
Essential. It's mandatory. It's mandatory to do it. Because one thing I say is, we say you don't want to take the baggage from one situation into the next, but you should take the lesson. But you can't
Mm,
take the lesson into the new situation if you don't know what the lesson is. Give
mm,
yourself time to learn the lesson. And the thing is, when you're doing that, you have to be ready, and you have to. I never stopped looking at myself as being a husband. I never looked at myself as being a bachelor. I never looked at, and yes, it wasn't like I wasn't living in a fantasy world to not come to grips that I was divorced. It's not that. But my lifestyle, my interaction, the places that I went, my conversation, my whole mindset never stopped being a husband. And that's what
mm.
helped me in that mindset, because I didn't allow anyone else to dictate what I do, how I should act, and be in this. But it's so key to heal. And the thing about it is, when it's starting to healing, when you have a scar, you have a sore or something, and you pick at it, what happens? It starts all the healing process, start all the way back over again. So what you have to do is, when you feel yourself healing, do not go back to something that opens that wound up again.
Ooh.
Don't do it, because when they open it up, now it's like, man, now it's like take twice as long to heal. So don't go back
Wow.
and do something. And one of the greatest things that I share with men in a divorce, do not try to solve something after the divorce or in that state that you couldn't get right when you were married. Because
Mm.
if the person, or you don't have the same vested interest in it, if you couldn't get it solved when you were together, chances are they're very, very slim that that situation is going to be solved when you're divorced. So the
Wow.
healing process comes with you taking inventory of you, not going back to those past things, and making sure that you allow yourself to go through the process of grieving, because it's a process. You're going to be angry, you're going to be confused, you're going to be sad, you may be lonely, but I promise you, one of the greatest things God did for me, He took the loneliness away. If you try
Mm.
to get with someone when you're lonely, you miss the red flags. Well, you don't miss them, you just go past them.
Okay.
But when you are healed, you see things clearer, you hear it from God, and then you move in a direction that is of God. So it's so important to be healed. And guess what? You'll know when you're healed. You will know it. You will just know. You walk around like, wait a minute, hold on. It's been weeks. It's been months. It's been years. Oh wow. You know, I'm good with this. So it's essential. It's essential. And don't allow someone else to tell you that you're healed. Don't allow anyone to tell you that you're not healed. You know yourself if you are healed or if you're not. You base it on what God tells you.
Okay, but I think I am. I think I'm healed. I think I've
Mhm,
I've forgiven. I think
mhm,
I have let go of whatever, and I meet this very lovely person,
mhm,
and I was like, "Oh," and then they do something, and it takes you back and say, "Mm-mm, you acting like my
mhm,
ex."
mhm, mhm.
So how do we know that we are not? Then are we not healed at that point, or are we? Do we need to go back to the drawing board
No, no, no,
again?
no. You can still be healed and think that, because guess what? God purposely puts us in situations that we faced before for us to realize that we've grown. You'll never know
Mm,
that you've grown if you're in a different situation, because a different situation calls for a different reaction or response just
that's
because it's
good.
different.
That's
But you
good.
have to go through the same thing to be able to realize, now respond differently. And even with that, as I said it, when you were angry and you were not healed, you react. When you're healed, you respond. I'm gonna tell you the difference.
Mm,
Reaction is abrupt. It's quick. It's brought on by feelings. Our response is more methodical. It's thought through. You give your time to do it. So that's the difference. If you're going to think about it, because your mind cannot not think about it, because your mind does that. That's a natural part of you. You remember things. You go back to a place you used to go. When you move back to Pennsylvania, you automatically knew the streets, knew where to go. You don't want to forget that. It's the same thing that happens to you. You don't forget, but it's based on how you respond to it. It's based on how you treat that person. Do you hold that person? Are you able to mention it, deal with it, and you move on? If you're not healed, you put that other person's head on the person you're talking to shoulder.
Right.
So you're allowed to take you. Do you not realize nostalgia is something? It'll take you back. Unforgiveness take you right back to how you felt when it first happened.
Wow.
It takes you all the way back. But when you can think about it, but it doesn't give you that burden, it doesn't give you that beating, the flirting of your heart, it doesn't give you all of that. Oh, wow. I'm healed from it. It's similar. But now let me respond differently. Let me give that person a chance to work through it. And let's see if they're going to continue to do it. So yes, because people are similar. That person don't know that the last person did it unless you've had that conversation.
Right.
So that's how you know. So you thinking about it does not mean that you're not healed.
And
Just
that's not a
what you
trigger.
do after that indicates whether you're healed or not.
Right. Whether it's a trigger or not, right?
Yes.
Because you can, because they can say it, and you can like, that right there is not going to work.
And you know that. And you know it. You know when that happens, you're like, wait a minute. You feel yourself, something just click. It's like, okay. And so you need to know yourself. Whether you say you know yourself or not, you know.
Right.
Because you know when you get ready to go there. So absolutely.
Right. Because like, because and we joke because everybody remember I say all the time I'm always going to send Elder Troia out first because I promised Pastor Marshall that I'm all and he is the person because he sent me somewhere and I was just like, oh.
Yes.
I don't, because she's the only one that's prayed up. But to that point, it's like when you look and you talk to. I mean, even when I talked to that person, when I was talking to that person, I was like, "Yo, what I want to do to you,
yes,
I'm not going to do." Not because I said, but because I made my promise to Pastor Marshall. But I'm gonna get you. I said, I promise you. Keep on talking. I'm gonna get you. But I mean, and that was just something. That was just something off. That was a one-off. But in a relationship, when you're talking about that, and the person does that, and you're right. When you said that react and respond. Now, we women. Do you want us to respond?
Sometimes, I pray for that too. Because you know what? God says, okay, God have told me this. Now, be careful what you ask for. Don't be. What I've learned though, when a woman say they don't want to talk, men honor that. Please honor that. Because when the floodgates open, you can't close that thing now. And vice versa though. It's vice versa. So when a person say they don't want to talk, don't just totally just watch it all together. Shelve it for a moment. Allow it to be able to come through. So to that made me think about that. Do I want you to respond? Okay, guys. I'm good.
Because when you said methodical and that all of that, I was like, Because in somebody's head, you saying that, and please don't go out. Don't say Troy said go do this because you're like methodical. Yeah, he acting just like that other brother. So right. what I'm gonna do? I need to go to Kroger, pick up some honey and some grits.
Now you're right. I might check the don't think at all. Just don't do it. Let my spirit go. Don't do it. Don't even get through that. The more you think, the more like.
Sometimes, sometimes when you're thinking too long, like when we play, I'm a spades player. Study long, study wrong.
Yes. I was gonna say think long, think wrong. Yes.
Right. And so I think there's a fine line in
It is.
between
It
the
is.
reacting and the responding
Right.
and what that looks like for each person.
It
Um,
is. It is a thing like, and it's for each person, and you will understand being led by the Holy Spirit will do that because the key is you don't want to damage the relationship.
right.
You want to look at the lasting effect. My key when I do something, it's not only what happens at the moment, it's what happens later. What does that person feel or think about when they think about it, our interaction? When that person think about the conversation I had with them, does it bring them joy or does it bring them down? Whether it's with
Mm,
children, whether it's with a church member, whether it's someone that God has put in my life as far as, dating, whatever it is, what does that person think about in that interaction? And that helps me while I'm interacting with them, how I respond to them. What will it make them feel? Will this give them, will I add value to them or does it damage them?
mm.
Just for that moment, it may give you some kind of relief, but later on, how can you feel good about it if you care about the person? How could that be a lasting good feeling for you if you know that you did something to tear that person down? Now, naturally, yes, you may want to come back with it as they come back to you, but that's not going to last. That feeling is going to, it's fleeting. That feeling is not going to be there. Not permanently. A good feeling is not.
Right. But again, that comes from being healed though, right? Because
Yes,
if you're
it does.
if you're
Yes.
unhealed, whether male or female, I think that you'll leave your glass shards on that person, and now
Yes,
you're
you
cutting
will.
them up, and they don't
Totally.
even know why. They're coming back bleeding, like what's going on, and they're looking for I was like, I didn't cut myself. What happened?
You're absolutely right. And see, I have to share this, and it's so great. My mom just shared this other day. I shared it on Bible study tonight, but in another same way. You know how the saying say hurt people. But what my mom said is the power of God, and I'll even put in there healed people, help hurt people, help hurt people. Let's say that again. Hurt people,
Hmm.
hurt people. But
Hmm.
when you're healed, you've been hurt, and you can go and help somebody else that's hurting
Ah,
because
I
then
see.
you understand what it feels like. I can minister to men and women now like I never could before I went through the divorce. I can help a hurting man because I've been hurt. So God is helping me, a hurt man, help hurt men. A
I
hurt
hear you.
woman can help her. So that's what I say. A hurt person, you healed when you can help somebody else that's hurting.
Right.
You healed when you can talk about yours. You healed when you can share your experience, but just like a testimony. Don't dwell on the fact that you're hurt. You want to dwell on the fact of how you got from the hurting to the healing. Don't only dwell on that you were healed. You need to tell them the in between. That's what people learn from. They don't learn that they don't learn from the fact that you're healed now. They don't learn from the fact that you were hurting. They learn from how did you get from there to here. If people never know you were hurt, they'll think you were always in that spot.
You
They'll think
always
you were
good.
always, but they need to know you're hurt just enough to know it, but don't stay there. Let's get to the point of how I got from point A to point B. And
Right.
that's going to be the key.
So like what I do, like everybody's like, well, how are you the grief journey? I'm like, listen, I can tell my story better than I can tell anybody else's. I know the fight
Yes,
Jesus and I had.
yes,
I know how I didn't want to get out the bed. But then he sent somebody, and also mad about that. He sent somebody who needed help. I was like, I looked at my phone. Pastor, I was so mad. I was like, really,
yes.
God? I don't want to talk to
I'm
nobody. I don't want to
for
minister
real.
to nobody.
Listen, God has a way of doing it. And I promise you, when you know, that was one of the greatest things I experienced as a pastor when God helped me to help someone as I'm in the middle. And even before my divorce, I'm counseling people. I asked God, I said, God, how can I go and counsel this couple? And I'm going through it myself. God said, that's why you can. I was like,
Mm,
wow. So God said, that's what
mm,
qualifies you for this. So key. I had a couple that was looking for a counselor. The person's over the marriage ministry over at Stone Mountain or was going through trying to find a person to counsel. both of these couple, both of the men, a man and a woman, they had been divorced before. They were concerned that the person that counseled them was going to look down on them because they had been divorced. They was concerned how that was going to be. And the person that does the counsel, she said, I got the perfect person for you. She didn't tell them about my situation. One thing I do when I go through a counseling session, first thing I do is I start off by talking about me, sharing them, just introducing myself and tell them a little about me. When I share with them that I had gone through divorce, you can physically see their shoulders just slump. It's like, wow. It's a weight off of them that I've been, and they just opened up because they knew that I wasn't going to judge them because I'd been through it. I'm not saying that another pastor would have, but they were relieved to understand that now I can really understand them because I've been there, done that. So that was one thing that was so key for me. I was like, wow, God, you use me. This thing is not just for me. I went to counseling. I went back to the same counselor that counseled me and my wife before. And I went back because I need to make sure I was right in my spirit, in my mind. And do not be afraid to get counsel. So I went back and he told me, he said, Carlson, he said, Pastor Marshall, he's a good pastor. He said, you walking on holy ground. He said, the way you're going to be able to deal with this and be able to handle people and part of the healing is how you deal with it right now. The now is going to help you later. And that was so true. I've been able to minister to people because of the way God helped me walk through it as I was doing it. I couldn't wait till I was there to then start to try to get it together. God says, I want you to do it right now. Back to what you said, help somebody right now. It's like, God, for real? Like, okay, you do know I'm fresh out of I'm fresh. The ink is not even dry on the papers, right, God? You do know that, right? I said, yeah, bro, I got you. I know it.
I got you.
Okay, God. So it was just a blessing for me, but it was the best thing in the world for me because I was able to share so much of my journey.
But isn't it also important that I'm in my mind, I'm going back to that time, and I just remember, or at least from my perspective, we were just very protective of you at that point. Because we were like,
it's amazing you said that. And I have purposely had to say, guys, do not walk on edges. There were people, because we had a lot of couples in the church, and I said, don't walk on edges. We had some people that are actually getting ready to get married, and some people thinking about it. I said, do not walk on eggshells around me about marriage, because God did not make me bitter about love. He didn't make me bitter about marriage. So I said, no, I don't want you to not enjoy yours because you think it's going to put me in a bad place. No, marriage is still good. It was two people in the situation that may not work, but marriage is still good. Marriage will not get a bad rap from my side. It will not, because it's ordained by God. So yes, you guys were so protective, and I'm so grateful for that. But one thing I did not want you guys to do, to walk on eggshells, are like, wait a minute, I can't talk about my marriage. I can't talk about relationship, and Pastor Marshall is going through this. Oh no. So, but I thank you guys for the protection, because it was so loving and it was such a wonderful thing, because it's so public and that sort of thing. Right. But you guys were just there as a rock. So I just give God the glory for it.
And somebody said that to me. I said, listen, let me tell you something. I said, as much as I'm protecting him, I'm protecting her. Because I said, I have a relationship with her and I have a relationship with him. I'm not team any one of them.
Nobody. And I wouldn't allow it. I wouldn't allow anyone to have any just because they know me, just because they're members of the church. I would not that anyone did, but I would not allow. That's my whole mindset. I'm not going to allow anyone, because God didn't give me that to bash her. And so I did not allow it even in my presence. Not like I said, it never happened, but I wasn't going to allow it in my presence, because
I shut it down. I shut that down. You didn't. I was the line. No one got me. You know that. Not so much.
Shut that down quickly. Shut that down quickly. Because that's part of the healing. That's part of the healing too. That's part of the moving on. That's part of still looking like Jesus in that. And you can't allow that to even creep in, because now it's like, wow, you have something there that's holding you hostage, holding you captive. And no.
Right.
No.
Because I guess I always looked at it from a different perspective. I'm like, yeah, you're my pastor, you're my friend, but so was she. But then, I had this whole making sure that your kids were okay, because I'm a pastor's kid and I understand all of that. And I say, and again, I had to keep reminding myself, I told Pastor Marshall, I'm gonna send Elder Troia out first,
Yes. Thank you for that.
Because I was like, listen, y'all want Elder Troy or y'all want some of these other folk that are behind? Um,
Mm-hmm.
right. But I also knew, and I guess I knew and didn't know at the same time. I didn't know it to put a term to it, that I think in our protecting you, we knew that you had to heal, that there's some things that you had, that even though we're keeping you in this cocoon, sort of, kind of, not really, we were just allowing God to do his work in you so
Yes.
that you can minister to everybody.
Oh my, it was so key you said that. What God showed me also is sometimes people can't be there. I've learned this for me myself. When people go through things, you have to leave them, because if they're there all the time, then God can't get in. God had to have no one around. You guys at times, you was there, but like I said, at home, in the house with the memories. Mom was there, sister, kids, they were doing different things. They're supporting, but there had to be a time. If that does not happen, God cannot minister to you. God cannot minister to you like he need to when everyone else is around, because your attention's there. They're trying to minister to you, like with other people, they're trying to comfort you, but just as a person, I'm trying to make sure they are right. I'm trying to entertain. But sometimes it has to just be you and God. And if that doesn't happen, healing don't happen fully, because God just needs to talk to Carlos. He wasn't talking to Pastor Marshall. He was talking to Carlos Marshall. And that was so key to me. For me to be
Hmm.
Pastor Marshall, he had to speak to Carlos.
Yes. So that when because again, it's all a title, but you've been Carlos, and I've been, like I tell people, I've been Troia longer than I've been anything else in this world. And
Hell,
Troia had to get her life together for Elder Troia to work properly,
for
to
sure.
work to work in the ministry that God has for me, and as with you. So I think it's key. It's and people, and that's the part, like you said, a part of the healing process. Sometimes we have to get away from the noise, right? Because
Yes,
we
yes.
like the noise. We
Mm,
like all the chatter.
mm.
We like all of that, because it's a distraction. Because
Yes.
now I have to get with my this me and God has some carving to do. He has
And
some
then God
things to
can
cut
deal with you
away.
too. Yeah,
Right,
sometimes you want to get along with God because you don't want God to show you yourself.
right,
And God show
right,
you like, God, I don't like that. I don't like what you show me. Like, yeah, I know it. That's why you've been trying to avoid this. Because
right.
you don't like this.
Like, why you had to show me that? It's their fault.
Exactly.
It's not me. It's them. It's
Them.
them. They
Exactly.
did it. They did this. They did that. They. And
Mm.
until we get still long enough to say it's not just what was, and sometimes we don't like to ask the question, what was my role in this?
Yes. Yes. Have to. You have to
And
do
we
that.
don't, because sometimes we just want to say, you know what, they hurt me, and that gives. I remember when I was younger. I remember I built. I think I told the story. Around my heart. I built a moat. I had a drawbridge. I had some alligator. I had, because they, because I said they, but I allowed them to choose me. So
Mhm.
what was my role in it? And I was like, God, you didn't have to say that. You didn't have to show me that. So I chose wrong,
Right. Right. Absolutely.
because and now I'm building up this whole wall around something that I did to that I if I tell the whole truth, I did to myself.
For sure. For sure.
So I have to forgive me, right? I have to forgive me for walking into that situation.
Oh my goodness.
And while I'm forgiving them, it's important that I forgive myself.
And you can't forgive yourself if you don't admit that you had a part to play in it.
Right,
What you just said is so key. Show you, but don't be down on you, because you're the only one. You the part. What you're doing is the only thing you can control.
right.
You talking about the other person, what they did. You cannot change that, but you
Hmm.
can change what you do. You
Right,
can change how you feel about it. So that's the only thing that you can truly change.
right. And you can, and you can, and then you can allow yourself. Because I remember, I was like, why I keep attracting the same idiot? Because it's the same person, different head.
That,
Um,
but what's the common thing in there? What I would say, yes, what's the
I
common?
said, so
Different people, but the same. You was like, wait a minute, hold on, how that keep
this is
happening?
right. And I was like, something. No, this has to not be. Um, And this is and I did. I mean, like I think I shared with them. Well, I know I shared with them last week when I said every dude that showed up for about a year, only thing they were was tall. And you know how I am about my tall people, but they were all tall. But they were all crazy. I was like, what is what is the problem here? What I said, Troya, you're the problem.
Mm.
Get. Okay, God. I said, okay, God, we can't get rid of the tall thing because I'm not a short person because I needed to, I said, but there's we need to get rid of the crazy. So
Yeah.
what is it that I keep attracting crazy? So let me sit still. And again, I think because our society makes it so you need to be married, you need to be booed up, I mean, if you're not married by a certain time, what's wrong with you? Or if you
Mm-hmm.
got divorced and you're not seeing somebody within 2 weeks of your
Mm-hmm.
divorce,
Right.
or go to the extreme, you lost your husband or your spouse.
Right.
Now, why they're gone, they're not coming back. So a month later, why you're not out of the club looking for somebody?
Right.
What is that?
You know what? You're absolutely right. People push you out there, and you're like, wait a minute, hold up. This not. You have to be able to know when's your time, be able to do it, and don't get married. Well, yeah, and you even more so as a pastor. Oh, man, pastors don't need to be. The pastors don't need to be walking around single. Boy, pastors don't need to be into something they don't need to be in either.
Right.
Man, yeah, man, a single pastor. This, I'm like, but single pastor is just a single pastor trying to do the same thing, being led by God. So that's the thing. You're right. Well, the Bible says you got to do this. Says who? I say it's
Right.
the Holy Spirit and God. That's the only one I'm listening to. Because no. Mm-mm.
So I guess I should say sorry, but not sorry, because we prayed a whole bunch of them up out of there though. Like, mm-mm.
Yes, yeah, and I know they're so funny too, and I can see it. Some of y'all, I mean, I know it, man. If you're talking, man, you guys to do it. Elder Stella come in, it's like, that's enough. That's enough.
Mm.
Come in there. I was like, man, it's so fun, and I have to keep my composure because I know it's happening, and I'm looking around like, okay, y'all don't know y'all on the clock. Y'all on the clock. Look, it's counting down.
Because
There you
there's
go.
one in particular, I was just like, all right, your
All
time
right,
is
okay.
up. Let me,
It
let
is.
me. And I was raggedy. Look, I can talk about me now. I was raggedy because I was his armor bearer. And that's the thing. Like, and even with that, I was like, appearances, and I had to come out of that because I'm like, they're like, you're his armor bearer. I was like, yeah, I don't want him. He don't want me. I want this. I want what he's teaching me. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, I respect his family. I would never do
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. And because he was a preacher, ugh, no, that wasn't something that I was ever interested in. So I was just like, really, y'all don't. I'm watching, and that's the one thing that we always make sure that we do. We watched as well as prayed, and I was like, and I look at Elder Stella, I'm like, that one got to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Or
know it, I can see it. I'm like, I promise you, I'm just trying to keep my composure because I see it happening. I'm like, okay,
and then
let me,
Suge and I look at each other and be like, Suge. She was like, all right.
yeah. Oh, and see, trust me, y'all was in the right place because she's been doing that all our lives. Yes, yeah. So yeah, so it's so funny, but well appreciated though. One thing I can say, I tell women, I trust and I appreciate women's intuition because it's a real thing. It's a real thing that you all have. I don't say men don't have it in several, but in some way we just don't. Men just don't. I just don't have that to see what's going on or what's been. And sometimes I see it, but it's like I don't address it then. I think the difference is in some cases men don't have the intuition that women have. Other times we have it, we would just deal with it differently. We just don't
Mm.
do it like it's like, you know what? Just cut that off. Just tell her you're not interested. That's all. I was like, you can't just say it like that. You just can't tell
Sure,
them
you
I want to
can.
soften it. I was like, yeah, my
No,
sister was like, just tell me you like
you
it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot because there's a whole lot of men that will not, but you, because of the person of who you are, you wouldn't want to hurt their feelings or anything like that. But not all men are like that. Not all
Right.
men, and they'll
Right.
string them along as long as they
Mhm.
can, get whatever they can get out of that. But
Absolutely.
it didn't matter. You didn't have that to worry about because yeah, you didn't have that.
Yes, y'all were on point though. Y'all on
Yeah,
guard,
nah.
on post. Y'all on
Yeah,
post.
like I said, because and again, going back to the being a mighty man of God, we understood who you are and who
Amen.
and what your walk was and who God called you to be, and
Amen.
we knew. And again, I come from a different perspective. I come from being in the being a first family person, a first
Yes.
family child, um, and that moment, I remember telling you, I was like, because I remember, and it was so funny. I remember that conversation you and I had about your office
Mm.
when we moved to after school, and you were
Yes.
gonna take this little box. I was like, "What is you doing?"
Yeah. I remember that. I do remember that. I remember that.
And Mother Marshall, she saw me. She saw me that. I guess right not long after that, she said she pulled me aside. I don't know if I ever told you that. She said thank you. I said for what, Mother Marshall? She said because you made him get into a bigger office. And I was like, listen, there's certain things that he needs to do, and you
Mm.
needed to rest, relax, and
Wow.
regroup. And that box was not where you needed to rest,
Yeah.
relax, and regroup.
Yeah.
And I got it because that was just the nature of who you are. But like I said, so I nudged a little bit, I pushed a little bit,
And
and I'm
I
so glad
appreciate
that you
it.
trusted. I'm glad you
I
trusted
appreciate it.
me,
Yeah. Yes.
and you
For
knew
sure.
that we had your best interest at heart.
For sure.
Um,
For
well,
sure.
actually, your whole family. So, like I said, and it allowed you because of the people, and I think it was very key because the people that God was sending to our ministry. And I say ours because I worked. We and this is the one church I will, and he'll say the same thing. Most churches is 80-20.
Hmm.
20% of the people do 80% of the work. This was the first time I ever was in a church where it was 100% participation. We
Absolutely.
all worked.
I concur.
I
I totally
never saw
agree.
that before in my life,
I
and I
agree.
was not born and raised in the church. So
I
we
agree.
we knew we had you, and we knew that there was a work to be done, and
Hmm.
that but you couldn't do it if you were broken. You couldn't. I know people say keep moving on even if it's on broken pieces, but
Hmm.
at some point the pieces need to be put back together so that
Yeah.
you're standing on firm foundation.
Yes. 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 And that's so key. You're talking about the broken pieces. God gave me that too. You realize a vase, a vase, something that breaks, it's still valuable when God get those pieces. He can bring all those pieces together. They're just as valuable as before. But
Hmm.
you cannot if you don't get all the pieces, if you don't bring them to him. And that's the
Oh,
key.
that's good.
Understand that you're broken. Bring all of them to him. God said, bring all the pieces. Don't leave any out. Bring all those broken pieces, and I will put them back together. But you got to bring all of them to me. You're not going to be complete if you leave a piece over here. Well, God, I can handle this, but I don't want you to deal with that part. I can't. God said, bring all the broken pieces, and then I can put them all back together.
Right, because who was it? I didn't even know. I was in my car. BB Winans years ago, I guess, had a song called Humpty Dumpty.
Mm,
And my favorite saying is, we're not. I mean, especially this grief process, let it all break. We're not
mm.
Humpty Dumpty. All the king's horses and all the king's men didn't put Humpty back together again. And BB Winans took it a step further. He said the reason why all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put him back together again is because the wrong king. They called for the wrong king.
Come on. Wow.
I
That's
said,
good.
well, do,
That
well, do.
good. That good.
I said, I'm taking that. I'm borrowing that one.
For
I'm gonna
sure.
go ahead and.
And
I
I give
said,
you a
BB,
props, even though
yeah.
I give you a props through CC.
See, right.
You will hear that again if the Lord's
Yes.
will.
If
Yeah.
the Lord's will, I said, and I already borrowed it. So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
one of the ones that I will put into my arsenal. And because again, I believe, like you said, once we have all the pieces, God can then put us back together. And
Yes.
in our singleness, in our hope to be with whether we're single or whether we're in a marriage or whatever, as God puts us back together, we can again hey Elder Carla, she says self-evaluation, and we and allow God to grow us, to heal us. We can be better spouses. We can be better. I never like the term boyfriend or girlfriend. Um,
We got to
uh,
grow for that word.
I never, that's nothing I never did. But God will allow us to be mighty, will allow you all to be mighty men and allow us to continue to be loosed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Listen, anybody have any, listen, if y'all have any questions over here, please let us know. How can, and we're not going to keep you long because I got little people.
Mhm.
And you got you know what? I'm looking at that picture behind you. That is so cute. That is
Oh,
so
thank
pretty.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
like, I said, I remember that painting. I was
Yeah.
like, that's
Yeah.
cute.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
uh, but how can they find your book? When is it
Yeah.
coming out?
Okay. Yeah, okay. CarlosKMarshall.com is my website. So you can find me there right now. The paperback copy is at the printers. We're looking at mailing those out, but you can go do a pre-order at CarlosKMarshall.com. You can go do that, do PayPal. As far as the digital, guys, I'm already looking at this as being a bestseller. So on June 1st, I'm saying at 10 o'clock on June 1st, put this on your calendar. You can go out and get the digital copy because we're trying to flood Amazon. So you can go on Amazon to get the digital copy on June 1st. And then the paperback copy, you can go on carloskmarshall.com and can do a pre-order. And then I'll mail those out to you. Mail it out. Absolutely. So you go out there, you'll be able to see it. And you can stay in contact with me, follow me on all of my handles, Facebook, Instagram, and everything. You're talking about Instagram and Twitter, Carlos K. Marshall. Very easy. On all of my social media handles, it's the same, Carlos K. Marshall. And my website is carloskmarshall.com. And you see everything out there. So pre-orders for paperback, if you want an autograph copy, June 1st, we're going to flood Amazon at 10 o'clock to be able to get your digital copy.
Yes. So y'all see that everything is right there. Carlos K. Marshall. Don't mind where it says assignments. I guess I didn't take my. I'm in school too because I have nothing again because I have nothing but better to do but to have like school stuff. But I am so excited about this book. Can you be trusted as one of God's mighty men? I ordered two.
Yes,
I'm just
you
waiting on
did.
my two copies because
Yes.
I need to send one to somebody. Once I saw that, because I saw it on LinkedIn, and I was like, "What's this?"
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he told me what it was. So, listen, men, it's I believe that this is going to be something that's needed for men. I mean, it's probably good for us too, women, but there's a lot of we have a lot of resources. We talk with one another. We get together. And matter of fact, on Mondays, I have a couple announcements. And after we're talking about this, on Mondays we have women's Bible study on Monday nights. And so this week we have a guest that's going to be, she's talking about grief in the Bible. But we're in July and August, we're going to talk about spiritual gifts.
Mm.
And we're taking a spiritual gifts assessment.
Oh,
Um, yeah. So we sent out the links to everybody taking a spiritual gifts assessment. If you would like to be a part of that, email me at isi@justtroia.com and we'll get that out to you. But we have speakers coming from Elder Dina's going to be teaching one of the courses.
great.
Yeah, Elder Sonia Chapman. So it's going to be
We
yeah.
got
Then
some
there's
heavy hitters.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's what they don't want to miss this one.
Boy.
And that's coming up in July and August. But between then and June, we have a really good strong list of women that are coming in to teach as well. And they're announcing again. So we'll have to invite you if you're available on a Monday because we
Yeah.
said that we're going to invite once in a while. We'll allow the brethren to come in.
To have privilege. Yes. Yes.
Yes, let's
Yeah.
to open it up for the brethren to come in and fellowship with us. Because again, we learn from one another and we get
Amen.
stronger from one another.
Without a doubt.
Um, and all of us want to be a mighty man or woman of God. So I'm really excited for your book. I really, really am, and I'm so
Thank
glad that
you.
you were
Thank you.
able to
Thank you.
come on and share with us this evening
Thank
about
you.
because again we don't always talk about the fact that men just you just keep moving and instead of staying still and allowing yourself to heal. Um,
Amen.
because I believe you want the same thing that we want. You want somebody to to love and be loved, and
Amen.
not to be damaged.
Without a doubt.
I think we all want the same thing, or at least I would hope we all want the same thing. But I don't see
Yeah.
any prayer requests coming. But so what we're gonna do? So next week we're talking with we're talking about grief and the widow, and
Mm.
then yeah, and then next month we have a whole. I mean, so we're back. Everybody have been asking. Hold on, somebody said hold. Oh, for the prayer request. Okay. Um, so we're back next week. You can also. Everybody knows I never promote my products. And I guess I should. I'm horrible about that. But if you want my book, email me or go to Amazon. Well, it's been acting weird on Amazon. Oh, my journal. Yes. Look, when he told me that he was a journaler, I was like, okay, all right.
Look,
And I dropped it in the mail.
I keep it right there, Bobby. Then you see it's handy. I didn't even have to think. When you said it, it's right there on the table where I do my all that. So yes,
And
love
if
it.
you yeah, if you want to order that, just let me know. Go to my website and do that. But he didn't even know I was sending it. He called me. He was like, "Girl."
Just got me, totally threw me. I was like, oh my god, hey, open it up as soon as I got it.
So I was like, "Yay!" I said, "Okay, I got him." Alex Paban family. Okay, Alex Paban family. Okay, we will pray for him. We're also going to pray. We need to pray for the Porter family. He lost his sister, and her funeral's on Monday. Um, I think that's all I know for now. Um, but we're really excited. We have another author coming on in a couple of weeks. She wrote a book. My little sister, my little sissy, she wrote a book, and so I'm excited about her book. And she's talking about
Amen.
infertility and things of that nature. So we're this grief journey. I guess I'm on it, huh?
Amen.
Our
So,
miracle baby. Our miracle baby that was born 1 pound and some ounces is now 14 pounds. Wow. And
wow.
soon to be 1 years old. Wow.
Mm.
Look at God. Look at God.
He knows how to do it.
So I am going to let Pastor Marshall have the final words, and I'm gonna let him pray us out, and then we'll have out our thing. And you know where to find. He's already. I told you where you can find him. Everybody knows, right? You know me. I'm just Troya, and I'm gonna let Pastor Marshall have the last words.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's such a blessing. I want you to go out there and get the book. It's going to bless you. Not the only thing, just because it's for men that you can't do it. So again, carloskmarshall.com, Carlos K. Marshall on all my handles. And I thank you so much for being here. And God bless. And we'll pray us out. Okay. Dear God, we thank you so much for today. God, we thank you for allowing us to be able to be here tonight. God, all of those that have given the special prayers, God, you know them, you hear them, oh God. We thank you for the miracle, Father God, the baby. We thank you, Father God, for Father God being giving us peace, Father God, through the grief, oh Lord. As we go through this process, God, we know that you're there. You never, Father God, will leave us. You never will forsake us, even in our grief, oh Lord. It is truly a grief journey. But on this journey, God, we learn more about you, God. We see that you're there. So we ask you to touch us, God. Touch those families, God, that are going through the bereavement right now, God, in the grief. We give you glory. We give you honor, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Again, Carlos Marshall, and we'll do the outro in just a second. But I forgot to announce I am going to be on a Roku streaming talk show thingy. I'm waiting for the link so we can so I can send that out. And it's international. So I'm international now.
Look at you. Do your thing. I'm glad to know that I know people know that I know you.
Listen, you're always gonna know me, but I'm gonna do the outro and we'll see y'all next week.
All righty.